And you're live on Dead Radio.
Yo, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dead Radio. With your main man, Bangy is dead. Powered by the beautiful guys at Play Energy Drink. Shot at BlackBrick. Obviously, this is like their cinema room. Mad cozy, if you ask me. Shot on a Sony camera. And today, obviously, as you guys do know, we've got a special guest. We only have special guests, you know what I mean? Before I get into it, I'm just going to explain to you a couple of things. So that camera is for you, that camera is for us, and that camera is for me. So, as, I don't know if you know, if you've done your research, but I'm just going to tell everyone else who's probably watching this or listening to it for the first time, we don't introduce any of our guests.
Okay.
So we allow the guests to introduce themselves to just kind of give us an idea of who they think they are, rather than me sucking something out of a thumb.
So you didn't do your research?
I did. I always do my research.
I feel like this segment hasn't been researched.
No. I really do my research. I just would rather take it from you what you think you're about.
Got it.
So you're gonna get into it.
So do you want to know everything? Age?
I mean, I don't think age is important.
Okay, just what I'm about.
Just what you're about, what your name, where you're from. Then we'll take it from there.
Cool.
So yeah, ma'am. Hi, how are you?
Hi. I see we socially distanced.
Yeah.
We appreciate the safety.
Oh, funny guy. All right, so you're gonna look at any camera, but might I add, it's not an interview. It's really just a conversation. So don't ever feel the need to like look at a camera per se.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
I can introduce myself. So my name is Sunshine Shibambo. I think anyone who's known me longer than 10 years probably knows me as Hlami, which is actually my name. I am a creative. I've been a creative for, I'm about to feel old. Let's see, 20-something years now. I create in a sense that I solve problems by using creative to solve those problems. So I started a business 5 years ago, which was essentially built to just manage that. Okay. What I realized, having come from corporate, so I've worked in the corporate spaces, I've worked for, big brands, SABC, I've worked for Media 24, I've worked for SAB, I've worked for big brands in terms of personalities.
We're definitely going to get to that, but like...
so that experience kind of helped me start my business.
Right.
It helped me hone my creative to something I could sell. Right. Where before I was just a general creative that could paint and draw and cut up things. Right. Going into the corporate world helped me make it tangible and be able to monetize it. So I finally figured out you can charge per hour, for example.
Right.
I finally figured out you can charge for just ideation and you don't have to actually make anything, you'll be paid just for the ideas. And I think that experience helped me start my business. So now I introduce myself as Sunshine Shibambo. I run an agency called Cheri Yase Kasi. We are ideation specialists that use creative to solve marketing problems.
Interesting. Well, that's a nice one.
So it upgraded from creative to ideation. Yeah.
Seems like you had a bit of practice.
No, it took me a while to be able to define what it is that I do. Right. Because the places I worked in different positions. I started essentially as an intern in a marketing department. Mm-hmm. Even though I had studied advertising, I come from AAA.
Okay, we're gonna get into that. You're moving too fast.
Yeah. Okay, let me pull it back. But anyway, starting or getting into the jobs I got into was just a way to find out how I could use my creative in those different spaces.
Right.
And so it put me in different environments. I went from fashion styling to a marketing assistant to doing live TV productions. Right. You'd see the Summers go live. I'd be part of that team. From anything to like car wash activations, and it just kind of broadened the scope where advertising was very linear. I could only be an art director or a copywriter or a strategist or account director. And I think working at SABC and Media 24, which included entertainment and broadcasting, introduced a whole new world of radio and television. And so it gave me this kind of added advantage, you know, where I could...
You know more.
Yeah, I could put things into situation, you know. When you study advertising or any creative kind of course, usually in your last year, they'll get you to do an internship just to almost get the practical skills.
Right.
But it's never the same when you actually start working in those spaces. So it was great to have kind of a view of both worlds, the formal corporate marketing side of things, but also understand the agency side of things, because that's all I knew in college.
Okay. So before, you already like jumped a couple of steps.
I hate introducing myself because I'm always just like, what do you want to know? Where I went to high school.
No, it's fine. We'll never get around that.
Yeah. But I went to Macaulay House. Just FYI.
We're gonna get there. So, so normally, what happens is, obviously, I'm gonna ask you about your background, because your background really doesn't contribute to who you are today. So, where did you grow up? Where were you born? And we'll just take it from there.
Okay, so let's start there. So I grew up in a small neighborhood in Soweto.
Okay.
Called Pholo.
Okay.
Pholo is famous for 5 roses, which is this big rainbow in the park thing. Some of the first live shows in South Africa happened there.
That stage thing in my Bobby, that's
absolutely the rainbow.
Right, does it still exist?
It does. It actually burnt down, and then it was rebuilt by a private someone.
So no one really has access to it, because I mean that's normally what private people do.
Yeah, there's a music school in the back of the rainbow, because there's actually offices in the back.
Really? I thought it was just that thing like in the middle of nowhere.
No, it's a performance space. So when it was built, I mean, I remember seeing Lucky Dube, Sipho Hot Sticks, Brenda Fassie, because there used to be shows then when we were kids, you know, you could walk to those parks. But I only saw it because I got into eventing, and I've used it as a venue now, so I actually accessed the space.
Right, because I'm wondering even now, like I haven't actually seen someone do like a live mix thing at that place. Which is like kind of really weird.
The 5 Roses is incredible. I think Pholo's got a lot of nice historical sites. We have AA2, which is the oldest cinema in a township. So back in the days, I saw Bruce Lee's first movie there.
Crazy.
Schwarzenegger and all those kind of cheesy classics we grew up with.
Right.
That was our place to go. And when it closed down, I think it was a sad day. It's never been reopened. Also, I think caught up in politics.
Yeah.
So it's a venue that's just sitting there. I loved growing up in Pholo. I have 4 brothers. So you can imagine I was a typical tomboy.
Right.
Yeah. If I was standing up, you guys would see the scars on my legs. Roller skating, rollerblading. But also growing up in the township then, it was everyone took care of everyone. So your neighbors, you know, resala go next door because your mom's working late. So it teaches you other languages, how to manage people. I mean, 1 minute we're at this granny, we're at this auntie, we're there. I come from a single parent home, so I had a mom who had to have assistance to help raise her 5 kids. So we became quite independent young. We're all about a year apart. I sit slap bang in the middle. So I have 2 brothers older than me, 2 brothers younger than me. I hate being their sister because it's like being a mother when you have 4 boys. So it never works out.
Would you say that has kind of contributed to the type of person you are today?
100%. I think it's taught me how to be always aware of the next person.
Okay.
So everything I do is always thinking of the next person in mind.
Okay.
Even though it might be something that started as something for me, it's always like, how can the next person win, or how can I bring in someone?
And creatively, I'm pretty sure that has also like added some sort of
absolutely. I think for me the definition of Ubuntu I learned growing up in Pholo,
right?
Because my neighbors were, younger kids, got pregnant early, but, still had these dreams. And it teaches you just to be more compassionate, to be more realistic. But it also teaches you to hustle. So it was, I think, one of the first places where you learn how to make money without realizing you can, you're making money, you can make money. So, but the IC,
Right.
it just kind of showed you that possibility of,
And the opportunities the world probably holds.
Absolutely. So I lived there till 97.
Okay.
And
Don't
then
say year dates, because then that's going to make you feel old.
No.
Unless you
The
don't care.
viewer might think so. No, so we moved 97. I was 15.
Okay.
Grade 10. Now it's 9, I think. Yeah, grade 9. And we moved to a neighborhood called Naturena, which was kind of the first black suburbs in the south that started coming up after, we got our freedom. So moved in there. We moved at a great time because my brothers started moving out of home.
Right.
The two above me were going to matric. So Naturena was great because I finally had my own room.
Okay.
But also I had a space to kind of create. So my mom wanted to put us away or take us away from the township. When we left the township at the time, jack rolls were rising. Hijackings were becoming a real thing.
Right,
There was just more crime, kokasi, and I think in her head she wanted to get us away from early teenage pregnancy and those situations. So my last 3 years of high school were literally kind of very secluded. Naturena was still quite small. There was no public transport. It was just this little kasi dorpi in the middle of nowhere. I went to Macaulay House. Okay. Macaulay House is an all-girls Catholic school from grade 2 till matric. So
did you like it?
I loved it because we were always small in a class. I was never in a class that had more than 30 students.
Okay.
So it meant you kind of got the extra attention that you needed.
Literally giving them some marketing.
No, I love them. I think the joy of going to an all-girls school, being in an environment where it's all boys at home, it gave me sisters automatically. I'm still quite close with a lot of the girls I matriculated with. We still keep in contact. But it was also such a progressive school that when I went in 1992, which would have been great too, we were a handful of black kids, but they were one of the few schools at the time that were willing to accept black kids. Okay. And with the Catholic schools, they were always kind of non-racial.
Right.
So it gave us this great place where I suddenly interacted with white people. Okay. Which previously I hadn't. So my best friend in primary school was a white girl called Diane.
Do you remember if it was a culture shock?
It was.
I used to recall that.
It was. So because my mom, when we were living in Soweto, had always been in a political kind of environment. She was a Mkhonto Wesizwe girl. Mm-hmm. She worked for a political newspaper. So our immediate environments, I think up to 15, up to 12 was very black. Okay. The newspaper she worked for was literally fighting the apartheid government. Right. So the editors were black, the writers were black, the photographers were black, the stories were black. So I was in that world where I was meeting black excellence. Right. At the time, without realizing it. I mean, I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Now, in hindsight, I'm like, oh shit! I met Abdul Ibrahim when I was a kid. I went to a Brenda Fassie concert. I was backstage in these spaces, and once I've started chatting to my mom, I understood she used to take me to work with her. Right. So it was always such a colorful experience growing up in those environments. Naturena was a bit more, I think that's why I became more girly, because I finally had time to myself and I found myself. And you went to a girls' where Soweto was like adventure the whole time. It was always about getting into trouble. Like, how far can we go? Can we get to Meadowlands? Can we get to Dobsonville? Can we get to, and still make it home before the sun goes down? Right. So my childhood was colorful, it was comfortable. I never felt like I was missing anything. Okay. Not even a dad. Not even a dad, because I had a mom who had a great support structure. And so I think that taught me from a young age that, you can kind of get a lot done if you have the support structure around you. I watched her hustle 5 school fees, buy a car, buy a house, and that kind of always stuck in my mind that, okay, cool, she could do this without a university degree. She only had a matric.
Right.
And like a typewriting course from Demelin, but she had minimal education.
Okay.
And so I think her perseverance kind of drove me to kind of start thinking I can do things. Yeah, I never would have thought of it then, but as I progressed.
Which point in your life did you get introduced, like, can I say creativity or art?
From a very young age. I know, well, first memories I have is when she worked for the newspaper. Yeah. They introduced like a kids section to keep the kids of the people who work there busy.
Okay.
So I worked with the Sisulu kids, Zoya and Moikwa Sisulu, who was like a Sisulu's kids, who was the editor. And we started the kids section, crosswords, coloring in, drawings. Maybe it's at 91.
Okay.
Because I think the paper closed 93.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's kind of my first memories of it. I thought I was more of a bookworm than I was a creative.
Right.
Because I enjoyed reading more than I actually did creating for the longest time. So my mom says when I was young, you'd find me hiding in a corner reading, trying to find light to read.
Crazy.
That's all I wanted to do.
Right.
And I was obsessed with Sweet Valley High, which was, again, if you're my age.
Know what that is.
Yeah, I hope people who are watching this are over 35, because then you might not get these references.
Like Sweet Valley High. Okay.
But it was like these books you could pass around. So we'd share them like different high schools. It was about these kids in high schools, Archie and Veronica and Betty and a mess, but it was our life then.
Right.
So I always wanted to recreate, and I started consuming a lot of television. I was small, so I knew I was always fascinated by how TV is made. How, you know, that scene, how did they get that car there? Is it like how did they shoot this?
Is it real?
So TV for me drove a lot of that curiosity.
So I'm assuming you watched a lot of TV too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still, till today, TV for me is a very good kind of reference point, and not reference in the terms that I can recreate what's on TV, but it just shows new ways of doing things.
Okay.
I love watching international music award shows because they showcase some of the best technologies that you wouldn't necessarily think to use in a music awards environment. So TV was that for me, and I think in the early 90s, TV was terrible. SABC 1 was the Zulu channel. SABC 2 was the Sotho channel. Yep.
Really?
There was no SABC 3. There were certain shows you had to turn on the radio to match the TV, and then it's in English on the radio. Yeah, there's a show called In the Still of the Night, and that you could simulcast in English on radio, but on TV it wasn't Pedi. What? Crazy.
Nuts.
But that was TV for us. You know, the occasional movie. So when my mom was in exile, which was early primary school, she sent back a lot of kind of videos and sing-alongs and just whatever she could while she was away. And that again started that curiosity. Now watching Disney shows for the first time and being fascinated by animation.
Right.
And I think my curiosity started from there. So she got me into an art school from grade 2.
Okay.
So I would have been 10,
so
maybe.
Cool. Now, after, you were 10. No.
9, 8.
8. Yeah, 8.
So that's the closest I remember. I used to cut up clothes every holiday, school holidays. I always wanted to look different, you know, so I'd always be cutting up her clothes or my clothes. And then I got introduced to sketching.
Okay.
One of her friends, the kids, was at an art school, specifically at an art school. I think she used to go to NSA at the time, and so I'd watch her, and she started sketching, and I got interested in it, so I started sketching, and then we were sent to art school.
I'm sure this after after the magazine, the newspaper.
After the magazine.
Okay.
After the newspaper.
Okay.
Yeah, because the newspaper, that was my mom's job.
Right, but
So I essentially nepotism my way into it. But she always tried to kind of support my creative curiosity. So it wasn't just sketching. I really thought I was going to be a musician. So at some point...
sing and stuff?
No, play piano or cello or
Okay.
flute. She paid for all those lessons. Sis didn't deliver. You know, I thought I was going to be a fine artist, so she took me to an art school at Zoo Lake.
Okay.
So I think she always tried to hone what we showed interest in.
Right.
And mine was always kind of in the creative world. So that's why I say when I was young, I knew I wanted to create. I just didn't know what kind of creator I was meant to be.
And at what point did you decide?
Wow.
Can you recall? Like at one point did you...
Still not decided.
you know, I'm pretty sure you know what I mean.
I think I go through phases.
Yeah.
Because I just am constantly kind of curious on my ability.
Right.
So, you know, I'll go into styling because I think I can.
But you want to see if you
And I
can.
want to see if I can. And so that's how I got into it. I actually entered a reality show. I thought...
Right. Was that the first step into like the
Fashion?
world, the fashion world?
Yeah, I would say like official step.
Okay.
A step that was noted. Prior to that, I dressed friends.
Okay.
I was the one designing matric dance dresses.
So this
or-
is a step where you actually started getting a bag
yeah,
for doing it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But I also had never considered it as a real job. It was just like this phase I was going in of questioning my ability.
Why didn't you? Do you think it was unattainable? Or just
No,
out
at
of
the
reach?
time, there was just no money in South Africa for
Okay.
stylists like that. I mean, this is 2009, 2010.
So I'm assuming you think there's money now?
Absolutely. I think what social media has done for a lot of South African brands is fast track everything.
I like what you did. You said South African brands. I hate when people say local brands.
No, South African brands.
Yeah, I feel like it's so distasteful.
It is, because it's like saying the black child, you know,
Yeah.
the
Like,
South African child.
what do you mean?
And you know, when I look at it, going into fashion and winning this reality show, and some of the designers that specific magazine worked with over
So
that
like
time.
like you won.
Yeah, I won. I beat out 2,000 individuals.
So how did you enter? How did you discover it?
So a friend, Refilwe, who I was working with at the SABC at the time, and I worked in a department where we were producing live shows. So we would do summer awards, or we would produce Design in Daba. SABC still had lots of money, but also were
How did you even get into that?
at the
Is that a
SABC.
story for another day?
No, I'll definitely go into it.
Okay.
But with the SABC at the time, they were really focused on honing and investing in South African arts.
Oh.
So they did a lot of kind of design in Davos, Lurie Awards, Royal Show, which is like Ren Show, but it happens in Pietermaritzburg.
Okay.
We sponsored things like the Ren Show. We would put on a TV stage and we'd have a radio stage, so you could see your Metrofilm DJs live broadcasting from Ren Show, or you could meet Dao from Generations on the TV stage. And so that was my job. But I'd gotten bored with it. I'd done it for 6 years. It became so easy for me. It wasn't challenging. Yeah, I become restless every time I get to a point where I feel like I've hit the ceiling with my ability. And so she phones me one day and she's like, I'm reading this magazine and there's a competition for Style Intern, is what they were going to call it at the time. And you win a contract to work for this magazine and 10,000 rands cash prize and laptop and nice things. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And so I entered. I was working at Metrofilm at the time as a events coordinator. And I was shortlisted. They asked us to come to Cape Town. On the first day, I think there were 50 of us. We were shortlisted to 20. I remember the first interview they did, they were like, okay, so do you think you're going to win this competition? And I was just like, yeah. No one scares me here. I probably had the least styling experience because it was fashion students,
Right.
Lysoff and Cape Town schools, but I had been in a work environment. and I'd worked managing a brand, SABC. So I have that confidence of I know what to do with a brand.
Practically, yeah, on a practical level.
And so it ran. It like they did it for 10 days with eliminations every day and challenges and through broken nails. And I mean, at that time I was still very tomboyish, so I was not this glam me that you see today. I had braids and I think I broke a nail first day and I got into shit in the show because like, dude, you can't be so scruffy that you're going to work for this magazine. I was like, did you pay for my nails? But I just remember being so certain that this is what I could do.
Right.
So when it did eventually get to top 3, and they were like, okay, cool, you know, we think you might win this thing, but we want you to do or create some tensions. And I was like, no.
What do they mean?
Because reality TV is still reality TV.
Oh,
you
so
still have to add
like,
in the drama, the thinking moments.
Really?
Yeah, and
So
I
they actually wanted you to
remember,
stage that?
yeah, I remember saying I'm out. And I was like, nah, okay, cool. I'm easy. Nah, SAVC, I can get my job back. And I won eventually. But
So what, did they ask you to stay? Like,
no.
Can you even imagine what kind of a conversation like that goes like?
So it was a scene where we all got a chance to call home.
Yes.
And there were 3 of us left. Dion, who was the only guy at the time, a girl called Rosemary from Durban, and myself.
Okay.
And I'm the only black person, so when I speak to my mom, and they're recording it, she asked me, so labantu abasela abelungu or abantu abamnyama, you know? So I'm like, abelungu. I mean, right? Normal conversation.
Yeah, normal.
Oh no, I was a racist. Why abelungu? You know?
What
It became this thing where I was just like,
No, but
okay, we're not doing this.
That's actually a good question. What are we meant
At
to
the
say?
time, it really, I think, shocked me, and that's why my I'm out element of it, because it's I mean, how my mom and I will talk about race, mlungu, muntu mnyama, you know, we'll always kind of approach it like that. So I think the thing that frustrated me, that made me want to walk away, is possibly being labeled a racist.
Right.
Which then just triggered the I don't need this side of things. But once it was resolved, I mean, we still had a few days of competing. There were still more challenges. We were eliminated. And I won. And I really enjoyed working for the magazine. I think the fashion editor there at the time, Chu Suwanapa, he's actually a designer as well.
Yeah, I know that homie. The guy with different African textile vibes.
Chu was the fashion editor, and I would have worked underneath him and the beauty editor at the time.
Dope.
And he made me take fashion seriously. I think he made me understand and see the beauty and value of South African brands. Being in Cape Town at the time, you know, being able to just walk into Luna Studio or Kluk Studio, being able to just call Tula Cindy for a dress, David Tlale. I think that was the like adrenaline rush for me, you know, but also the education to learn from someone who authentically loved fashion and wanted to be in fashion. So that's how I got into fashion. A friend was just like, this is so you, and I was like, okay.
So you went from a stylist,
I went from an events coordinator to stylist
to being
style intern.
to basically doing the fashion thing in a nutshell.
Yeah, lived in Cape Town for a few months. Cape Town's not for me.
Why?
I think
so. Definitely not for me either. But
I'm a person of people, you know, and Cape Town didn't have that. We were all kind of this creative community.
Right.
And so we had that belief in each other. So once I started working with WHP, then Tapelo Mokoena asked me to work with him. At the time, he was shooting a movie called Scaife, and he wanted me to help him launch, you know, the premiere of the movie.
Did you know how to do this, or did you just learn along the way?
I did. I'd been doing it at the SAVC. I'd been producing design endeavors and, you know, exhibitions for the Rand show, choosing the talent.
Right. So I'm assuming you had the connections or like the people to reach out to in order to
Absolutely.
have a specific story to be aired.
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I had been at the SABC 6 years, so it you know, through the 6 years, I did 6 design endeavors, 6 lorries, 6 ranchos, 6, you know, makufes, 6 this. So with every makufe booking or rancho booking, you must book an artist, you know, or MC. Or so it gave me access to the celebrity world, and being working for the SABC, it was our daily, you know. We bumped into people into passages. SABC, guys, was once a bustling entertainment center before Claudi. You know, where you wanted to work.
Why would you say that? That's such a political statement.
No, and I'm not political. I'm just saying, because I worked at the SABC before Claudi, and I went through 2 CEOs whose vision or priority was building the SABC through partnerships with the creative industries, right?
That makes sense.
So Peter Matlare, for example, RIP to Peter Matlare as well. He was, after Zwelakhe Sisulu was the first black CEO of SABC. And what he did, for example, is introduce, you know, premium channel SABC3 that was this black opulence. So we saw top billing come from that, right? Where prior to that, we had never seen what black excellence looks like. So for Zwelakhe, because he had New Nation, the newspaper, where he was already celebrating black excellence, it was natural to do it at the SABC.
It was easy.
Absolutely. And then Peter Matlare came after him, who had come from overseas university, had this vision of what broadcasting could be for South Africa, right? So you saw your generations come to life because of CEOs like that, who said, we do need a soapy, but it can't be black people got paying, you know? So Mfundi Mvundla came along and said, here's this new thing I can do, which is aspirational, which people can, you know, imagine one day falling into this world. So because as a TV nut, generations taught me things like there's advertising agencies, which prior to that I would have never known. Right? Because they're not teaching you that at Macaulay House. That you, when you grow up, you can work for an advertising agency. And they say, go be a doctor. Go be a teacher. Go be, you know. Standard. So, again, generations or television opened that world for me and started those questions. And yeah, it's just always seemed to have come back to this certain place. Every job that I've done. The live broadcasting helped me manage talent.
Kind of moving away from a political statement.
Claudi messed up the SABC because I think he did not realize what the power of the creative community is. If you look at industries like Nollywood and Hollywood, Hollywood carries America. The money just made in Hollywood, which is a small piece, it's LA. Right? I don't know how many states are in the US, but LA is one of them. And if that small community can make money to sustain, let's say, 100 states, what's stopping South Africa from having a thriving entertainment industry? We're seeing our talent go out. We're seeing them creating waves. But if our national broadcaster isn't focused on celebrating that talent or growing that talent or supporting that talent, then, you know, no one's aspiring to be on TV. No one's aspiring to act.
What I can do, I don't know how far I can take it. But at the same time, wouldn't we say that's a duty that nothing Twitter's supposed to do?
No.
Stuff arts and culture? Because
SABC is a business. SABC is a business at the end of the day with objectives, right? And one of the objectives is to keep the country informed. That's why they are national broadcaster. DSTV's got it, ETV's got it. They don't have the weight of being a national broadcaster, right? So the opportunity in being a national broadcaster is you can educate people. Because you have mass reach. You know, the power of SABC is no other platform can reach that many numbers 100%. In that instance. I mean, until now, with the era of digital. But prior to that,
even till today, like a lot of people, sorry to interrupt you, but like a lot of people, the moment they get onto national TV, it's not necessarily they're done, but you literally see them as a brand per se. I hate referring to people as brands, but you see them as a brand like explode into different other things, and they become more marketable, they become more
absolutely. You've got 12 million people logging in every night to watch Generations.
Pretty much.
Right?
Actually more, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, back then, I don't know
Yeah,
now.
now it's like I think Generation doesn't even have. It's not the most viewed TV. The most viewed show is Uzalo. It's got like 28 million people watching it every day, every night at 8:30. You know what
So,
I mean?
is that not an opportunity to educate on, safety, on introduce a storyline about the riots, and because people are plugged in, people are listening,
Right.
people are watching. So I worked for an SABC that was that responsible, right? That would say, if it's Cancer Awareness Month, we would be producing cancer promos and going into the communities and doing work.
Oh, and this is the SABC that intersection came from.
Exactly, exactly.
Which was a show that basically opened up the lid on people having multiple sexual partners.
SABC was
string each
a
other like
pioneering
hostage for one
channel.
thing. Word.
Absolutely. When
Now I get
SABC
it.
One
Now I get it.
became Yamampela,
Yes.
I think now it's Mzansi for sure. But
Yes.
once upon a time it was Yamampela, and I mean till today their ad is still banned. SABC
Yeah, the ad.
had an ad where
Yeah.
living the life of a black person through this white person.
Yes.
And that was years ago. That was us first year university, so maybe 2001,
Yeah.
like early. And programming like that made a black child go, you understand my perspective.
Right.
Understand that even though we're both in advertising, I still have to get on 2 taxis to get to the agency. So I can't work till 11 p.m.
Right.
And I think it just gave it perspective. But around the same time, YFM was doing the same thing with their campaigns. Network BBDO had done incredible campaigns for YFM, for Metrofilm, What Makes You Black.
Okay.
So you started seeing this conscious black content.
Okay.
And SABC One was the lead of the pack. You saw Yizo Yizo. One of the first gay scenes in the country was on Yizo Yizo, and it was a rape scene in jail. Right, which was a reality in South Africa, but no one was willing to have the conversation.
Still today.
Tebucho Mahlatsi, who was on the team Yizo Yizo, young black creative, was someone we all wanted to be.
Right.
And
Point of
then
reference type thing.
and then you saw Scoop on what was that damn show called? Street Journal.
Yes.
Which was on SABC One, again by a group of pioneers. Rage at the time had signed H2O, had
So I get
signed.
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, shout out Maria Zino Kutlwano, still the best in the world.
Exactly get what you mean. So basically what happened meant there, that's not happening today, is that there was a lot of discovering of new voices and a lot
Absolutely.
of discovering of new ways to express the current affairs.
I saw
that were
Papama,
relatable.
who
It's crazy.
runs Africa is Our Time now, the
Right,
t-shirts.
right.
She was a stylist on Coca-Cola Pop Stars. And I was like, what's a stylist? Because they're introducing this person, hi, I'm Papama, I'm styling the guys. And I'm just like, what does a stylist do? And it just, SABC One for me was like this information source that there were black people doing cool
Dope
things, non-traditional things.
Right.
We knew Bovinolia and Nimrod.
Yes.
But what
Yes.
SABC One evolved into was almost creating like subcultures from that typical Kasi thing you knew.
Right.
So what you thought you knew is Bansula could now suddenly be translated and be cool to be in a Red Bull ad.
Right. Okay. So,
Right. And they gave us those platforms to express what is natural for black
on a mass
people.
scale.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I say Claudi because I feel like he walked into the SABC. I absolutely salute his trying to do 90% local. But the reality of it is we need aspiration as well, right? SABC has 18 radio stations. Of the 18, 15 are in vernacular languages.
Right.
So what part was he trying to make 90?
I mean,
Because Metrofilm, Good Hope, and 5FM are SABC's mixed race stations.
I need a, I
But
have a question to ask
Ukozi, Lisedi, Mungano Enene, Pala, they're literally in their languages, right? So if he was saying 90 in terms of make sure majority music on vernacular stations is is
South African.
in the Sutu
Yes.
for
I think that's what I thought that's what.
no,
meant.
even Metro had to go 90% local, even 5FM, even
But
Good
what's
Hope
what's wrong
FM.
with that?
There's nothing wrong, but you need to understand that they aren't, number one, when Claudi was in that energy, right? How many piano or gqom or any other artists were out here?
Didn't really exist.
Right?
All we had is like
But
hip-hop.
Metro wouldn't necessarily play gqom
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
But now they had to, because there's no Lionel Richie to fill in on
so
Sunday.
people
There's
now
no
want to tune in.
Tamiya. There's no... So now it's a different radio station. It was an urban music channel, Metrofilm. So now when
Right.
you make it vernacular, it's no longer urban
changing
music
everything.
channel. So
Right.
you must change your strategies. You must change your approaches. It changes so much.
Marketing,
But also for him
ads.
to like turn it over in 48 hours, it
Radically,
made
yeah.
no sense. So
So it was too radical.
absolutely. So
So it was a good motive, just too radical.
yeah, I mean, intentions, 10 out of 10. Delivery,
But too radical.
yeah, delivery, I don't know.
Cool. Makes perfect
I don't know if it
sense.
benefited the musicians the way he intended. Let's
Yeah,
put it
because it
that
was too
way.
radical. But, based on your statement about SABC and how radical it was and how it's not as radical today, right? I think it's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say how TV was communicated back then and how it's communicated today is the reason why we have a youth that is the way that they are today? Because, respectfully, a lot of our youth is like quite ignorant about like the current affairs and the current state of South Africa, you know? We've got a lot of people that think this is a first world. We've got a lot of people that think
Yeah.
they require a lot of first world things from South Africa. How they can't believe how so many little people have been vaccinated. They can't believe how...
It's not
how,
us.
No, but like, it's not us per se because, of everything else that's going on. But at the same time, we do need to put it into consideration that we really are a third world country economically. You know what I mean? Like, fine, when it comes to our infrastructure, we're on we could say borderline first world level, but
I think once you travel Africa, you
definitely
value...
what we have,
We are Hollywood.
100%.
Right? So I think the one advantage South Africans have, and I say this with the best of intentions, I'm not excluding anyone else who lives in South Africa. But I think we've always been aspirational in our thinking,
Yes.
right? You have to consider people like Brahu and Boma Miriam who went to live and start careers overseas. Once we heard those stories, we saw, okay, I can go there.
Right.
And my friends and I laugh because we always say there's a lot of guys from Pretoria, for example, who ended up in the UK in the
Right.
early days because they couldn't afford to study, but there was this no visa entry into the UK and they were looking for hard workers, and South Africans were known to be hard workers.
Crazy. Is
Right?
that a real thing?
Yeah, then. But now it's a whole
course.
visa process. But
Life is different now.
so I have friends who came back into the country 5 years ago after having lived there 15 years. Some still are in the UK and not planning to come back home. But I think South Africans have always been aspirational in our thinking, in our hopes, in our dreams. We want more for ourselves.
Yes.
And
It's because of access.
and SABC was a good vehicle that
Right.
did that for us. It's not their responsibility necessarily to
Kind of is.
get everyone on the same page in terms of how you consume it.
Yeah.
With phones, especially smartphones coming into play, people now have options.
different.
When I was in matric, you only got the news on TV or radio,
Yeah.
or
And I
print.
used to watch his Generations at 8 when everyone else was watching it.
Yeah, and maybe
No
SABC
YouTube.
3 will have an L Word and
Yep.
Sex in the City and that kind of so SABC 3 was international programming.
Yeah. I remember Survive and stuff.
Ellie McBeal we saw in SABC 3. So I think SABC's fault was not converting fast enough
Okay.
and becoming smart world compliant, right? In a sense that how do we make news, 15-second news on the phone if I've missed it, the 7 o'clock news, right? Because 7 o'clock news were a culture with Macaulay House in
Yes.
every black house, 7 o'clock in because 8 o'clock is generations, and so on and so on.
Literally like a.
But that
timetable.
culture of families changed.
Yes.
Right, because we only gather around the TV at that time because it's dinner time.
Yes.
You know, in Makaka generations that in an hour you have to go to sleep.
Yes.
So we consume families different now. Like no one's gathering to watch generations because someone probably bootlegged a copy and has already seen the episode. Like smartphones have just introduced a shortcut to it. So had SABC figured out how to be
to change quick enough.
Yeah, I think they could have kept the momentum.
Okay.
There's still some channels and shows that are doing it. I mean, I don't knock the SABC. I haven't worked there in over 10 years. No, 21 years. Like 11 years, sorry. Because I finished at SABC in 2010.
Okay.
But I mean, they made me believe in like black people doing amazing.
Yeah.
I found a lot of peers that I looked up to. There was a lady called Mate who was heading up SABC 3. She had gone to study in New York. She had worked in New York. I'd never met someone like that prior to that.
Right. So it made you a dreamer.
Absolutely. SABC 1 team under Romeo Kumalo at the time, introducing continuity presenters. It was all like this new world of wonder. But I had a secret because my mom worked there. I could like go and harass Romeo and say, please tell me what it is that happens here.
Right.
Like, and help me with this. And then she'd say, go there to graphic design, and I'd go find out from there, what do you guys do? And in my curiosity, I think that's been able to make me like this creative. And till today, I can't really say I'm a TV creative or
look, I'll just say this.
advertising.
And we literally had this conversation on our last episode, right? And I was like, I hate it that when we come to the creative world, we are always kind of forced to like box ourselves in to have like one title. Because I truly believe anything in art just having like a very fine taste. And that's why you find people that are good at designing, or people that are good at drawing, or people that are good at making music. Some can dress, but can't dress that well as a person that's fashionably inclined, or some know good music, or some know good spots to
Look
be
at Kanye West.
which is relatable. That's very funny that you brought it up, because this is the same guy we had a conversation about in the last episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's exactly the same thing.
Kanye West taught rappers to clean up.
Yeah. That it's okay to wear skinny jeans or leather joggers.
And a polo shirt, you
Yeah.
know, where before they thought he was a pansy. They thought he was this prep boy. But what he was saying is, why not, right?
can't
And
I?
now you see them. They clean up, they in their suits, but you see him with Yeezy. People said he's crazy. So I've always been so curious about the crazies,
Yeah.
right? If you read Hugh Masekela's Still Grazing, and I love to reference that book because Ukulele Mkukwini in Alex.
Okay.
And to be the Hugh Masekela you know today, where you could walk anywhere in the world and then know exactly who you're talking about.
Right.
Right? This township kid won somehow.
Change the world.
And on a global scale. So
Right.
how does a South African kid not be curious about that?
Oh,
Especially
how
like
does
if
it
you're a
impossible?
creative, right? Because
Right.
I didn't read that book with hopes that I could sing one day or play an instrument. I wanted to understand a creative mind.
Or what goes through someone's mind.
Absolutely.
Something like that, right.
So right now I'm reading Grace Jones' autobiography, which is mind-blowing as well. I am really kind of drawn to who the person was. You know, did they survive being called crazy? I think being a creative and growing up township, I was always, I mean, they like me because I'm a nice person, but I was always labeled crazy because I was always so eclectic. If it wasn't my hair, it was my clothes. It was
different.
Yeah, you were just different, and different was crazy.
Right. True.
And for so long I found offense to being called crazy,
Same.
Kokasi, to actually going, yeah.
I'm crazy.
You know,
think that
that's what
happens-
makes me different.
I totally think that happens like at a certain age. Like you get to a certain age where you just feel like, yo man, this is just who I am, and that's just how it is. Like I remember this one day, and I remember it so well because I thought I was crazy on this one day when it was CB's day, like last day of the year, you know, wake up in the morning. I think I was like in grade 8 or 9, dude, and I decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna wear my jeans inside out. Cool, wear my jeans inside out, and I'm about to get into the car because my dad used to drive me. That is like, wait.
What's happening? What's this?
That's like, what's going on here? And I was like, I'm going to school. He's like, dog, you're not getting in my car.
In those conditions.
Just like that. And I was like, why? Like, I'm literally dressed how I think I want to dress. It's like, no, dog.
You look crazy.
You look crazy. You need to go back and change, or you're not going to school. We're actually leaving you. And I would never miss school on CV's day. Like, I used to be up at close like that. Like, CV's is when I get to, because I was relatively like a shy person. Not really shy, but I only spoke when I was like, when you speak to me, like I didn't really go out of my way. So clothes was the easiest way for me to express myself, and the easiest way for, I guess, girls to talk to me, or girls to kind of say, oh, that guy, because obviously the other guys were not just like that.
We're not wearing their jeans inside out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think once I made peace with that, I was lucky because my mom never called me crazy.
Yes.
Right, so she was cheerleading. Others would say today, like, bad mom, come on, you could have roped her in.
You're like, why did you let her do that?
But she never stopped it. And so there was always that comfort for me. And I think the label fell away quite early when I realized being crazy meant I got more things. So I got special classes on Saturday because I had to go to art school. So screw you guys, I'm out.
I'm crazy.
Yeah, get yourself up saying you're stuck in the hood. And so it kind of started giving me that access. And through art, I started getting introduced to more non-black people, right? Because I'd go to art class and I'm the only black kid. And then the white moms are like, oh, no, little talent. Here's this and that. And, you know, and it kind of opened these doors because for some reason my mom was brave enough to kind of say nothing's going to stop me helping this kid achieve her dreams. Right. So I was the first black kid in a lot of spaces for a very long time. And if I hadn't gotten over that crazy part, I think that would have been harder for me. But I actually embraced being this like unicorn in these environments because it was like, yeah, you know, there's more like me.
Yes,
you know, like,
many more.
Ta-da!
So
black people are creative as well.
I'm definitely going to need us to go back to your story though.
Which story?
Fashion magazine, worked for Jabba, and after you worked at Tapela Mokwena, and then what was the next step? Like, what was the next stage when you got bored? Like, obviously you got
and I didn't get bored, I got broke. So Tapelo, we launched the movie. It did really well. We launched at Maponya Mall.
Dope.
That was crazy. Like full red carpet, an exhibition of all the characters in the movie. Dope. I don't know what we were thinking, Tapelo, pulling off Hollywood things at like minimal budgets.
But that's dope because it gave someone the go. Like someone probably saw
it was incredible. Listen, I still have posters and artwork from that, but no chance, if that makes sense. Yeah. Tapelo at the time was a Hunter's Dry guy.
Yes, the ad.
So Distel, who have Hunter's Dry, were giving him money. I think they had given him a little bit of money, but he had put in his like savings, all his money into creating this movie, and it was a win or lose situation, and we won because we pulled it off. We flighted something, people came in numbers, and it was incredible. But freelance work wasn't that sustainable in 2010. For someone who had come from corporate, it was really hard for me to just be earning the set amount, 10,000, like it was just like, I mean, 20. And so I actually got like hunted down. Two friends of mine had started working at SAB.
Okay.
The music, he runs Obrigado now with Ken Zero. He was working at SAB at the time as an events rep.
Okay.
And my ex-business partner, Dumi, she was at SAB as well. and they were going to get promoted, and the only way they could move into their new jobs was to fill their positions. So I think it was Dumi who reached out, and she had come to an event that I was producing for Dineo Ranaka called Music and Me.
Okay.
And we used to have these events in 4 ways, and Dumi happened to be at one of these events, and she was like, I like your work. Would you be interested in a job? And I was like, a job? Okay. What kind of job? I'm like, I don't drink beer. I can't sell alcohol like that. I'd never been in a sales environment.
Right.
I had always worked in a kind of production side of things.
Okay.
So what SAB was doing now was saying like, come sell beer. And I was like, Aki, no beer.
Yeah.
So I walked in going, I don't know, let me hear what you guys want. I was interviewed by the manager at the time. We met for lunch at a restaurant. I thought we were having a conversation. By the end of the conversation, she was like, well, I want to offer you this job. And all I kept thinking is, oh my God, I can have medical aid again. I can have a car allowance. Oh my God, so phony. Yeah, all I thought, because I mean, I'd been working for myself. I'd been working for talent. Who also talent, you must remember, you get paid if someone makes a booking. So if Jabba's not booked this week for a gig, I'm not paid. And so I miss the comfort of like medical aid and benefits and pension and overtime. And so I got back into it 2011.
So you said yes.
Yeah, December 2011 was my first month at SAB. And yeah, that was quite a ride. SAB was from a non-creative space. So as much as I was in an events department, it was still like heavy sales.
Right.
Had to push volume, had to push targets, and I'm just like...
Targets.
Guys, I think I signed up for the wrong job. So I'm gonna let me tap out. And they're like, no, dude. Trust me, you're a salesperson. You just don't know it, right?
So
and they could say this because when you apply to work for FMCGs, right? FMCGs, it's like SAB, Unilever, Nestle, Tiger Brands, fast-moving consumer goods. That's what FMCG means. If you work for any companies like that, they'll take you through what they call psychometric tests.
Okay.
When they say, okay, we want to hire you, and you do a series of tests, and what these tests essentially pull out for them is banging a guy who's going to give up.
Okay.
If we push him, does he work well with teams?
Right.
But can still be very independent. Right. And they do this assessment, and I apparently performed quite well, and so the job was mine. So they knew that and made a mistake. I was convinced they'd made a mistake because I was like, guys, I do events. I produce concerts. Like, what is this? Now you're going to give me 30,000, and I used to work with 3 million. Like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
I was so lost for the first few months. I was like,
what is this?
How does this happen? But because I'm naturally curious, then it became a challenge to myself. If creative is easy for you, so maybe this is like a new challenge, right? How do you become this salesperson? It took mountains and lots of people holding me up, just hold on. I walked in with a girl called Uzama, and she was also, it was kind of her first sales job. Zama was incredible. She's still incredible, still in alcohol sales. And she helped me because we go to a university 10 days and you have to write tests and exams and then you can work for SAB officially. So it's every phase is a hiring phase for them. So after the psychometrics, even though I was great, I still had to do this series of exams that would say...
Test on test.
Sanha was kicking and screaming. I'm like, there's no ways I'm going to university, guys. We're in school now, classes at 7, the day ends at 5.
What are you studying?
Sales, accounting, profit margins, everything. For me, being able to work with agencies, I wasn't necessarily as excited to be part of brand team because it took away the freedoms of being an events rep.
Okay.
The joy of being an events rep is you almost become your own ambassador, right?
What does the brand team do?
Brand team are the brand managers, marketing managers, promotions managers. They are the guys who decides if Drake is coming or Nicki
they're
Minaj.
yes or no people.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Where for us on the event side of things was pushing volume.
Okay.
We had to sell. We had to create activity that would push volume. So if we're going to partner with a Lil Wayne concert, I needed to know that the Dome were going to buy 2 trucks of Miller,
Okay.
for example, or that I can run competitions with Kong.
Right.
Or the Icon, the bank, in the clubs you could do your promotion. So we were a support in terms of events team, but obviously once you're brand team, you're the decision maker.
Right.
So when I got into brand team, that expose to agencies, the process, the systems, that started kind of triggering my curiosity on, but why are there no black businesses that are servicing some of these things when as a business, SAB speaks predominantly to 80% black people.
Yes.
And the faces that I kept seeing come in were white agencies who were brilliant. Agencies I'd wanted to work for when I was in advertising school, or you were suddenly seeing kind of the rise of these new agencies. DNA was relatively new when I started. I think they're 10 now. So yeah, maybe a few years old. But there was a handful of DNAs. I couldn't count them. There was one called Olive Communication. Roth Media had started at the time, but she had also come out of a SAB situation. And I think SAB showed us the gaps for creative and where the opportunity was in speaking to the black consumer, right? Because the white agencies still would have to hire Instagrass.
Yes, so you guys
to
had
give them
inside
insights.
intel.
Yeah, so I left SAB with that. I didn't know it was going to be a business per se.
But
I thought I was going to freelance.
You wake up in the morning and say, I quit?
No, it was over a series of I think months.
What is the straw that broke the camel's back?
Not being heard. Not being heard. I think, I thought I brought valuable insights into this creative, cool audience they were trying to tap into at the time on the brand team that I was with. And I just constantly felt like I wasn't being heard. And so what SAB does is, in part of your career, they match you up with mentors. And in chatting to my mentors, they were like, this place is like this. This is not really ready for this radical kind of approach that you want to do. So if you're going to be unhappy, I'd say leave. But if you're okay with still kind of doing things the way they are and being patient about change, I'd say stay because we don't want to lose you. But because I had worked with him 4.5 years, and he was the first boss who hired me. He was like, knowing you also, I'd say leave because you're going to be this restless. So I think I fought it for a few months. And eventually on my birthday, I woke up 26 May 2015 and I was like, what am I giving myself for my birthday this year? And I was like, I'm fucking quitting my job and I'm going to figure out if I can make it on my own.
Crazy.
And I was, I'm trying to think how old I am now. I was 34.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So it's never really too late.
Is 34 late?
I think it's too late.
It's early. It's early. Listen, I think nothing's too late.
That's what I mean.
My mom only got her first diploma when she was 60.
Right.
After she'd educated all of us.
No, but that's exactly what I mean. Like it's never really too late for you to change your mind.
Absolutely. I think if the mind is always curious, you'll never feel like time is the challenge.
Right.
The challenge is in satisfying the curiosity for me. That's how I approach things. So I'll never think, oh gosh, I need to get this done by 40.
Yeah.
It's more like, how long will this research take me?
Okay.
And I look at it that way. Or how long is the learning period? Then I'll look at it that way. So I've always been the oldest. When I was at the magazine, I was the oldest scout intern. I was an adult intern, where everyone was probably 5, 6, 8 years younger than me.
Right.
But my curiosity was what was pushing me forward. If I had focused on my age, I would have worked myself up and freaked myself out
100%.
because I'm thinking of competition, right?
100%.
But how I saw it was, I've got one up on all these kids. You've all never been in an office. Like, you don't know what it's like having a boss, managing a budget. You know, like certain things that we're doing here, you know, even you guys at the magazine know it wouldn't be our job. There's a driver, but I had that advantage. So I think because my curiosity always wins, I always feel like I have so much time until I have to say like, oh, 39. I'm like, oh shit, we're here already. Yeah, like, but age was never the limit. I think if you have the energy and you curious about it, you
go off. So right, 34, you quit your job.
Yeah.
Went
to Thailand.
What's the name?
It was actually Pocket of Sunshine first, and I thought, how vain. Do I want to call it Sunshine? So when I registered my business, it was Pocket of Sunshine, and the intention was to be able to kind of have pocket of this and this and this and this and this, you know, the mother brand being Pocket of Sunshine. But then I considered if I want to sell it one day, am I selling off my name?
Yeah, and you're possibly rights to your name.
Yeah, so Ken Zero, I think Ken Zero must finally get his credits for giving me Cheri Yase Kasi. So Ken Zero calls me Cheri Yase Kasi, and it's like an inside joke we have because we're both from Soweto.
Right.
He laughs at me because he says I'm like a white Shangan, you know, I'm this Sandton girl, but I'm stuck on being heard. So he always laughs at me, or would laugh at me in meetings and whatever, and always be like, yeah, Cheri Yase Kasi, you know, like Miss Sandton. And I remember after a conversation with him one day, and I was just like, this is actually the name.
Crazy.
You know, it describes who we are. Our roots are like from the township.
Right.
I think our ideal dream would have been to work out of the township.
Right.
So when we started, we wanted to work from Zone 6 in 2015. It was before they put up the stalls and the fancy bells and whistles of Zone 6.
Bells and whistles.
Yeah, once upon a time, it was just warehouse.
Okay.
I remember walking in when it was still being built, and Chris, you know, kind of trying to draw a picture on this rubble, and there was just like a pile of nothing, this warehouse. And to see it to what it is today, it's why I'm like bells and whistles, because I don't think any of us thought Zone 6 could elevate to that level. But I don't know, everything's always just
it's just how it is.
come to play for me. So it always feels like my life is an adventure, and like there's more coming. Like
so like obviously we might have to wrap it up pretty soon. Second last question. What's next? Actually, no.
No, COVID. Is there next?
There's a new variant.
What's next is not a fair question.
That's actually
whack.
Terrible. Yeah, whack as hell. Well,
Kuparithao, that's next. Thousands, millions. Cash is next.
You want cash?
Yeah.
Cash, not card?
Cash. Cash is king right now.
Right.
I think we can't think of next because right now the challenge is cash flow.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, not next. Cash is next.
What are the challenges of being a business owner out of coming out of corporate?
Emotional instability. I'm kidding. I mean, it's a big factor. I think being an entrepreneur in South Africa, because it could be different for someone in Kenya, is, as a woman, no support from my government in any sense, shape or form, even though there's a whole department of women, children, and elderly in South Africa. No assistance from SARS, who, you know, I think should have special laws and exemptions for SMEs, especially SMEs earning under 5 million or 10 million. I think the fact that we're grouped as against, say, your bigger agencies in our taxes is completely unfair.
Okay.
I think there should be a special exemption for female-owned businesses. Yeah, it's tough in South Africa. I think there are no support systems that offer a resource, you know, whether it's free counseling that you can phone in and talk to, or get free advice on labor law, and if you want to employ people, you know, what's the right thing to do.
Right.
Or, you know, I want to start a business and I want to be tax compliant. There are no like 0800 mahalainformation.com.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to hear the government, especially black women in government, insisting that they are doing all they can to help small black businesses in this country, and they do bugger all.
And we haven't seen anything. Yeah.
You know, to be told we'd get assistance, we pay UIF, and then you're not paid tiers or whatever it's called. It's frustrating because it starts to make you question if you should be a legally running business in this country, or to wing it the way they do.
Right, and just make
And
the money jump over the
and you
loopholes.
know, go on and just go on by and
Right.
pretend like you don't know. So I say emotional instability or crippling because today could be an incredible day because someone's put in a brief, but tomorrow could be a BS day because, you
It's level
know,
5.
yeah, you need to do a mock-up and you don't have the money to pay a designer.
Right.
And the only way to get this job is if they see mock-ups, you know. And so it teaches you to know how to talk to people.
Okay.
I think being in business in South Africa is also being in business with other people.
Yes.
Especially if you're a service provider, because your delivery depends on, you know, Bangy giving us dead jerseys so we can put them in the PR box that we're sending for Christmas.
At a good price.
Absolutely. So if I don't have that relationship or that trust with you, it makes my job a bit harder.
100%.
So it forces you to, you know,
Build relationships, basically, right?
yeah, and wear your heart on your sleeve. I think a lot of entrepreneurs try to act like they got it together. Because one, the fact that we're doing it is like this big woo-ha for either your family or your friends. People just don't think you can do it. So you're always trying to act like you've got it together just to make them comfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
So they don't stress
Like,
you.
yeah, guys, like I'm not dying. It's you know, where you could be internally like, oh my God, I'm going to take your AK and go shoot people.
The cost is going down.
Absolutely. I think it teaches you to keep, you know, they say like paddling underwater, but above you're still and you look calm. It's taught me a lot of patience.
Same.
I don't think my patience level were at this. So, you know, now a lot of BS just kind of flies off. I'm not as emotionally affected. When I started the business, I felt every no was an attack on me and my personality or my being, and I used to personalize every rejection.
Same.
But you know, this is our 6th year this year into it, you realize the brand manager on the other side is you know, just like you. She could be having a bad day, doesn't know you, it's got nothing to do with
Nothing
you.
at all. It's just business.
Absolutely. And so it's taught me to be a bit cold as well, which is not necessarily a good quality on a normal human.
Yeah, but it's something you need in business.
Absolutely.
Have to say no.
I think as a woman in business, and other women will understand, it's always thrown in our faces as women that like, you do business like a woman. It's like, what the fuck is that? What is that? You know, business is business. So
True.
Is it
offensive?
It is offensive because we wouldn't be in the same boardrooms if I was doing business like a woman. And
mean,
what is business like a woman?
I mean, I want to be honest. I've said it before.
You do business like a woman.
There's reasoning why
That's
I've
so
said it.
sexist.
No, it wasn't even coming from that perspective. I mean, it was ages ago, and obviously I've changed my perspective on that as well. But I said it from the basis that everything was so, like, there was an emotional reaction to a business transaction. You know what I mean? Which I don't think the two interact with one another.
But that's the thing I don't understand. Who set this rule that there can't be emotions in business?
They just can't.
But we're humans.
Not
So
when
are
it comes to
you
business.
saying we're operating on zero?
100% when it comes
There's
to
no
this.
ways. I think if there was more compassion put into approaching business, right? Because if you understand my cash flow issues,
Yeah.
but I can deliver on your work and the quality of work.
Yeah.
What is needed for us to move to the next step is someone applying compassion and going, I understand where you come from, or I don't understand where you come from.
Okay.
But this thing of we're going to go in and it's, here's what's on my table. Who's going to win, right?
Right.
So it's interesting because I try and watch a lot of these, like Steve Jobs, who was a cold businessman, no emotion attached to it. And to see him die in his last day and regret every single moment of it, that's my question on not applying emotion into it, right? Because
Okay.
you must remember, if you're going to change as a business person, it means you're changing as a person as
Yes.
well.
Because
So
everything is a habit.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, even though this being called quality is great for me in business, as a person, I hate it because it makes me seem detached,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
it's become a mechanism to protect myself from the harshness of business, or bumping into people like you say you work like a woman, right? You then learn to go inside with saying fuck you, and I'm going to show you why I'm not a woman.
Right.
I'm a business person.
Right.
So if we applied more realism to business,
That'll be the best.
there'd be less fraud that our government is committing, because no one in that room said, but what about the people? Don't you
Yes.
feel bad? Like you're actually EFTing this 22 million and nothing moved inside you.
Yes.
That
Right.
that's cold business.
I totally get what you mean. So this is the last segment. It's called Inspiration 101.
No, I have none to give.
Man,
I'm out. I'm all out,
you
guys.
don't-
I'm all out.
You don't even know what it's about.
Okay, inspire me, please.
No, all you have to say is tell us what are your mantras. Tell us one thing that keeps you going, that you tell yourself. So it's called Inspiration 101.
It's gonna sound silly.
No, nothing sounds silly.
I literally operate on a simple, if you can dream it, you can do it. And it's Napoleon Dynamite. Again, a plus 35 reference.
I've actually watched that.
But, it's that simple thing of if you can dream it, you can do it, right? Because now you finally have examples of people who've done it.
Yes. Point of reference type thing.
I remember going into AAA 2001
Yes.
after matriculating, and the only person I knew who had been at that college or that school was Pamela Motini,
Okay.
who I think became an actress and now she's on radio.
Okay.
And she was my neighbor in one of the environments I lived in. And I remember her trying to explain what AAA is and what you can do and, the courses available. And if there hadn't been a Pamela, I don't know if I would live this life I'm living, right? If I'd had a reference, someone to talk to, I think anyone 35 under is in a 200% better position than we've ever been in.
100%.
You guys have access. I mean, we were doing school projects and you actually had to go to a library, Kateri magazines. There was no internet to Google
Anything.
Google was not a thing. Typography class was actually learning how to create different fonts
Right.
by hand. Right? It was an actual class, and you had to pass the module to pass the year.
Right.
So you guys are in a better place. The inspiration for you guys is everywhere now, right? Because there's so many other people who've done it before. Stone Cherry,
Luxury culture.
Lokshan Culture, R.I.P. Wandi. Maria McCloy, who's now into fashion and she's in PR. Those are people still alive. Those are people still here. Those are pioneers of South African subcultures. So this eclectic black kid you're seeing, there were people who actually helped create those spaces and channels for it to be a real thing.
Right.
It took Scoop to create the young black Joburg kid you're seeing today. It took Isaac Pasha, who was before Scoop, and Isaac was, again, crazy.
Right.
But revolutionary in his time, wearing nail polish, these big dreadlocks. But we saw this black kid travel the world, like go into these festivals, go into Europe. And for the first time we thought, oh my God, I can leave this country, right? I can tell people about South Africa and they wouldn't be shocked who we are.
Right.
And I think that's what you guys have an advantage of. I think I worry for 35 under that your egos don't allow you to get into a space where you are wanting to learn from people who've been there, who've faced the hurdles, who are still in the hurdles, some of them, and how to make it better for you guys. I used to stalk Maria and Rage and Kutlwano when I was in college because I was like, I want to work at Rage, guys. You don't have to pay me. I just want to sit here and take it all in.
Right.
So I just started harassing them. I'd just show up. I'd literally go from college and go sit outside Rage in Norwood. And eventually they let us in. And eventually they had a conversation. And eventually they told us what happens. And through that I met Lee and Rude Boy and Thomas. And, you know, you start to meet their circles and their circles. But
Right.
there's this perception that the plus 35 have got it together. And the only inspiration I'd want to give them is to kind of, you know, take advantage of the ones that are still alive.
Right.
There are people who did mind-blowing shit in this country that I think a lot of young people might not know. After Shirley's, we never thought we'd have this other big South African, but here's a Trevor Noah. We're seeing Tusombedu now go. Mampo Brescia, for example, lived in LA for 10 years working as an actress. Teripeto was on The Bold and the Beautiful, guys.
Yep.
From acting at Gibson Kent School to literally being on like international stages. Nomzamo coming from a township. And there were people before them.
Right.
There were people they could talk to. I mean, Nomzamo is lucky to have gone through the BOM school, you know. BOM is the same guys who did Yizo, Zone
BOM
14. Yeah, Tebucho and Desiree Maghraf, I think. Who wouldn't want to learn from them?
What?
All right, they've done it. They know what it's like to get a show on SABC 1, to have it be controversial, to create a soundtrack from a show that was again a first with Yizo and Ghetto Rough, one of the dopest soundtracks in South Africa. It became all these new things that we didn't know before. You know, all we knew was Boom Shaka and Kalawa Jasmine, but now you started seeing it go into the UK. Abo Oskido. I think Kala was one of the first labels to work with European music labels, with house music. Abo Fresh with house flavor, music flavor, house.
Yeah, and also when you went to Miami. I get
Do you know what I mean? And those were people who did it when we thought it couldn't be done.
Yes.
I never thought I'd work for a radio station, especially the radio station I wanted to work for. I never thought I'd get to Metro. I never thought I'd get to SAVC. But there was this determination that was like, yeah, it's gonna happen.
Dope.
It's gonna happen.
Okay. Well, everybody.
And stay curious.
Stay curious.
All the time.
Thank you for watching and listening to this episode of Dead Radio. Apparently, I have to say apparently because I'm not big on it, but please subscribe and turn on your notifications. From your main man, Bang is Dead. I am out. Oh, and from the guest.
Am I allowed to tag myself? Follow us, please. Cheri Yase Kasi. We are on Instagram if you want us to solve any of your creative needs. Follow my personal page. Don't hold me accountable for anything on that page. It was me. At Sunshine Shibs. And I hope any of my mentees who are watching this, who are obviously going to tell to follow Dead Radio. I miss you guys. I love you guys. Stay dreaming. And you can achieve anything you want to, as cheesy as that sounds.
That's Inspiration 101, by the way. Anyway, the drama. Alright, thank you. And from your main man, Bang is Dead, and the guest, we are out.
And you're live on Dead Radio.